Hi there guys, welcome back to another update with regards to Trump and his silly antics. Before I proceed, if you could kindly like, share and subscribe to this channel, it does help us produce more and more content, and I appreciate that, thank you. Now listen, these schemes Trump's clinging on to, they're actually collapsing right in front of him, and you might think, oh, maybe that helps him keep things hidden, but no, this actually is destroying his whole game. Trump has always played politics like a scam artist he is, like a con man, turning valves to release steam before the pressure blows. Now people demand accountability, people demand justice, and instead of delivering, he's actually flooding the news cycle with chaos. He gives distractions, half-truths, flat-out lies, anything to keep the crowd calm without ever letting them have what they're really asking for, which is the truth, of course. Now here's the thing guys, this time he can't play that card, because the truth people are demanding is the one thing Trump cannot give. The one thing he's terrified of is his connection to Jeffrey Epstein. Now let's stop sugarcoating it. Trump's name isn't floating somewhere on the sidelines. It's actually plastered all over Epstein's world. Flight logs, parties, photographs, the same exclusive social circles of billionaires and abusers. Trump wants you to believe it's all just a coincidence. That's, he was just there by chance. Come on, how many coincidences does it take before we stop pretending he's innocent? He flew on Epstein's plane, the very plane survivors have said was used for trafficking. He also showed up on Epstein's island, an island survivors describe as ground zero for abuse. At best, the absolute best scenario, Trump was a willing bystander hanging out with Epstein and looking the other way. At worst, the worst case scenario could be the connections are far deeper, and that's exactly why he's so desperate to keep things under wraps. Let's also be real here guys, if Trump were actually innocent, he'd want transparency. He'd be the loudest voice saying, release everything, open the files, let it all out. He'd be demanding it to clear his own name. But what's he doing instead? He does the opposite. He screams, he distracts, he attacks the media, the courts, anyone who gets close to the truth. Now that's not behaviour of an innocent man. That's actually the behaviour of someone who's terrified that the receipts are all out there and they might point the finger right back at him. Now Trump loves to pretend he's an outsider, the truth teller, the guy who fights against all the elites. That's his whole scenario he plays out. But let's cut through the performance. He is the elite. He's been running in those circles his whole life. He's part of the same corrupt, rotten system that protects predators, that shields billionaires from accountability, that sacrifices ordinary people to protect the powerful. He's not against it. He's actually one of the biggest beneficiaries of it. So here's the bottom line guys, Trump isn't afraid of lies. He thrives on lies. He's afraid of the truth, because the truth is the one thing he can't control. He can't spin and he can't bury forever. The truth is pressure's building inside the system he's rigged for decades. And the harder he tries to seal the valve, the bigger the explosion is going to be when it finally blows. And when he does, Trump won't be able to hide behind his usual excuses. He won't be able to wave it off as fake news as usual. The truth will show who he really is, what he really stood for, and why he's fought so hard to silence it. That day is coming very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for now and see you on the next one. And before we see you on the next one, just take a look at these reports from the various media, mainstream media, which has been exposed, also been exposing him.
Breaking news in the Jeffrey Epstein controversy. A federal judge has just rejected the Trump administration's request to make grand jury documents in the case public. The judge had this to say in his ruling, quote, the information contained in the Epstein grand jury transcripts pales in comparison to the Epstein investigation information and materials in the hand of the Department of Justice. We have CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams with us now. Quite a response from the judge there, Elliot.
It is quite a response, and he even uses the language I thought you were going to quote, Brianna, is where he says that the Justice Department has a substantial investigative trove in their possession that could be released to the public if the Justice Department so chose. There's nothing shocking about the judge denying a request to unseal grand jury materials because of how clear the law really is around the country about not making grand jury materials public. So this isn't a big shock here, certainly not the last we've heard of this.
And it's another judge, right, doing this. So another federal judge has already denied a DOJ request to release Ghislaine Maxwell's grand jury transcripts. And they said that much of what the DOJ sought is already public. It was presented during her trial, so it's out there. DOJ knows what's in the transcripts. So when you're hearing what these two judges are saying here, Elliot, what should we actually be concluding about whether the DOJ is actually working in good faith to be transparent about what's in the docs?
Yeah. I think the good faith question is a very important one. To be clear, it would have been incredibly unlikely for grand jury materials to ever have been released in this case. As I said a moment ago, the law is remarkably clear on this issue, and it's really only subject to very few exceptions when you would ever make grand jury materials public. So then the next question is, well, what could be made public? It's whatever is in the Justice Department's possession, and that's all of their investigative files that the judge today made a reference to. Now, it's a judgment call for the Justice Department to decide how much of its files it would wish to make public in this case, but it really comes to them. And to your question about good faith, it's really a question for where the Justice Department wishes to satisfy public clamoring for information on this, but also their desire to protect the things that are in their possession. And that's really a call only the Attorney General and the people around her can make.
Elliot, the judge denying the Epstein grand jury transcript said that another compelling reason to keep the record sealed are possible threats to victim safety and privacy. We have to remember that there are victims at the heart of this who were children when this happened, right? And so I want to ask you about something that we are hearing amid this political brawling that's going on here in Washington over this. I was speaking last night with a member of the House Oversight Committee, a Democrat, Jasmine Crockett, who says that the entire committee should get completely unredacted files from DOJ, which would include victims' names. It would include child sexual abuse material. I asked her about that, and I challenged her because, as you are well aware, Congress isn't exactly known for discretion when it comes to there being political points available to be scored. But she said they can handle this responsibility, and if anyone did do anything wrong with it, they should basically be punished. But she doesn't trust the DOJ to be the arbiters of what gets through to them. What do you think about that? How do you balance these things?
Yeah. It's a tough balance, and
that's why everyone thought you were crazy yesterday when you were overheard on a hot mic telling the president of France that Vladimir Putin would make a deal for you, just to do you a favor.
I think he wants to make a deal. I think he wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds.
4, 3.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. The European intervention stopped Donald Trump from doing anything crazy with Vladimir Putin, but nothing can stop Donald Trump from saying ignorant things, things Donald Trump knows nothing about. Something Donald Trump does know about is how many times his name appears in the Epstein files. His attorney general and deputy attorney general, who used to be his criminal defense lawyers, rushed to the Oval Office after they put thousands of FBI agents to work studying the Epstein files to tell Donald Trump exactly how many times his name appears in the Epstein files and in what way his name appears in the Epstein files. The House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed the Epstein files from the Justice Department, demanding that the files be delivered tomorrow. The Justice Department has offered a compromise of beginning to deliver the Epstein files on Friday of this week, 2 days late, and only beginning to deliver them. The top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, who will join us in a moment, says that that is not good enough. And now a Senate committee is pressing its legal right to obtain the Epstein files by law. Federal law says that the two committees, the House Government Operations Committee and the Senate Governmental Affairs Committee, can request information from any executive agency, including the Justice Department, if any 5 members of that committee asked for the information. And today, 7 members of the Senate Governmental Affairs Committee, all Democrats, wrote to the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, directing her, quote, to produce to this committee the full and complete Epstein files as identified by the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Federal law says that the Attorney General is bound by law, by a federal law, which says that an executive agency, quote, shall submit any information requested of it relating to any matter within the jurisdiction of the committee. That applies to the Governmental Affairs Committees only. There is no way around that law as written, no legal way. But that does not mean that the Trump Attorney General will not defy that law, because she knows how many times and in what ways Donald Trump's name appears in the Epstein files. And Donald Trump knows, and they obviously don't want
the wrong Attorney General in the room. Pam Bondi should be before this committee, and she should be testifying as to what she had on her desk that she claimed were the full Epstein files with lists, and why she wouldn't and still has not released the full unredacted files.
Hi again, everyone. It's now 5 o'clock in the East. That was one of the 2 House Democrats in the room yesterday for former AG Bill Barr's deposition. Bill Barr was testifying before the House Oversight Committee as part of its probe into the Jeffrey Epstein files. The congressman there is calling out a missing voice that they say they need to hear from because there is a huge discrepancy between Trump's attorneys generals. Here's current AG Pam Bondi back in February.
One of the things that you alluded to, and this is something Donald Trump has talked about, the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that.
It's not somewhere I don't know where, in a file cabinet, buried in the deep state bureaucracy. It is, quote, sitting on my desk right now, end quote. The committee then heard from Bill Barr yesterday, since he was Donald Trump's Attorney General at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's death in 2019. And here's what the Oversight Chairman said about what Barr told them behind closed doors.
Attorney General Barr testified in there was that he never had conversations with President Trump pertaining to a client list. He didn't know anything about a client list. He said that he had never seen anything that would implicate President Trump in any of this, and that he believed if there had been anything pertaining to President Trump with respect to the Epstein list, that he felt like the Biden administration would have probably leaked it out.
Can't be both. Which is it? Are there no files and no client list? Or were they, quote, sitting on Pam Bondi's desk a few months ago? House Oversight Ranking Member Robert Garcia had a different take on what he heard from Bill Barr in his appearance in front of the committee, saying in a statement, quote, Attorney General Barr could not clear President Trump of wrongdoing. Chairman Comer should release the full unedited transcript of his interview for the public, end quote. Garcia also called for cooperation by the Trump administration to release all the files. Quote, releasing the Epstein files in batches just continues this White House cover-up. The American people will not accept anything short of the full unredacted Epstein files. Today was the deadline for DOJ to hand over the files in compliance with a subpoena from the committee, the same group of subpoenas that brought Bill Barr before the committee to testify. But the Justice Department said they will begin the process on Friday. Despite the fact that they are delayed, the Washington Post reports this, quote, the release of any records from the Epstein files would mark a significant breakthrough after weeks of turmoil among Republicans sparked by the Justice Department's abrupt conclusion in July that no further disclosures of Epstein material, quote, would be appropriate or warranted, end quote. Since then, President Donald Trump, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Republicans in Congress have struggled to respond to backlash from their base, which has speculated for years that others in Epstein's circle of rich and powerful friends may have played some role in his crimes. That's where we start the hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Former top prosecutor at the Department of Justice, Andrew Weitzman, is here. Also joining us, Christy Greenberg. She's a former criminal division deputy chief at SDNY. She's the host of the YouTube show Courtside. An investigative reporter for the New York Times, Mike Schmidt, is here as well. Lucky for us, all of them are MSNBC contributors. Mike Schmidt, let me start with you. Bill Barr did more to cover up for Donald Trump's political ambitions inside the Department of Justice than just about anyone. His reputation has been very much shined up, if you will, by his use of the word BS to describe Trump's delusions about actually winning the 2020 election. But how would you assess his credibility as a witness to this Republican-led oversight committee? Do you think he, having covered him, do you think he walked in there and answered questions truthfully?
My guess is that Bill Barr probably did go in and answer questions